Hey, it's Soul with a reference guide to Brann, your companion for Season 1 delves in The War Within. What can he do, how can you configure him, and what sorts of chaos will he bring? You'll learn all that and a little bit more here. If this turns out to be helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for more WoW coverage, and catch me live wherever I'm streaming. And let me know what else you'd like to learn about delves in the comments, and let's cut to the chase. Brann is your gun-toting John Rambo, made to annihilate your enemies and otherwise assist you in delve combat. Leveling him starts out very straightforward. Just defeat enemies, find little treasures, and clear delves for the biggest reward. This works up to level 15, and afterwards, Brann will only gain experience while running bountiful delves. He can level all the way up to 60, and the experience requirements can get pretty lofty. So here's his level requirements at level 45, and here's this shot of his level requirements at 50. For reference, you can get the most Brann experience when running tier 8 delves at 45,000 experience per clear before whatever mobs and treasures you pick up. Consider his level to be a seasonal goal for you because, it's going to take a while. Fortunately for those of you with alts, Brann's progression is shared across the warband, aka your account. That potentially means a lot of tier 8 delves you can run per day should you choose to. Brann's strength is based on a few factors. One is his level, as just mentioned. It affects his overall throughput as shown here, and this is viewable where you can look at his abilities. He scales with your character level, so he's not going to totally one-shot low-level delves, but he's still going to be super strong. And he does scale with your item level. According to Icy Veins, Brann becomes quite powerful after reaching a player item level of 595 or higher. If you're having trouble with throughputs, consider investing in some quick item level upgrades for yours and Brann's benefit. Brann has a customizable toolkit as either a damage dealer or a healer. In either role, he can take significant amounts of damage, so don't be shy about starting to pull and letting Brann take some of the heat off you before you start throwing fireballs. In either role, he has a few shared abilities. Brann's Epic Egg spawns an egg that you want to destroy. It'll hatch a Devil Sword Buddy, who will deal damage and a Horrify effect on enemies. Brann will also spawn a monkey who randomly increases tertiary stats or deals damage to nearby enemies. I'll summarize the role-specific abilities. As a damage dealer, he spawns traps that add stacking damage over time to enemies who run over them. This is great against large enemies who will quickly eat up every trap. He hops into a griffin to deal massive area damage. He can silence enemies on a somewhat short but unreliable cooldown. He lays down ice traps to slow enemies, provides a DPS buff, and randomly executes enemies at low health, which feels really satisfying. As a healer, he throws down potions you can pick up for a large heal. He can deal direct healing via beacon, provide immunities and cleanses to debuffs, and damage absorbs. I have two rules for choosing his combat role. If you can't heal well enough and you're dying, spec Brann for healing. If you can, then spec DPS. Okay, that's kind of one rule. Anyway, let's move on to Curios. I'll commentate on them all and then go over my favorites. You earn Curios by completing bountiful delves. The higher the delve, the higher the quality of the Curio. The drop rate is fair, but it's not reliable, so it might take maybe a few weeks to get a full assortment of high-level Curios, but you can also use alts to run more bountifuls and get them faster. Let's start with the combat Curios. The Light Touched Idol heals you for up to 40% of maximum life over 10 seconds. It procs off of defensive cooldowns, but it also seems to have an internal cooldown of 45 seconds to about a minute. Otherwise, I'd be able to get this heal rolling quite a bit as a tank spec, and it's not bad if you're lacking on self-heals. The Idol of Final will spawn a big old arrow from Brann for a few seconds, and then fire off a railgun kind of. It deals a lot of damage to the first two enemies hit. This changes the gameplay a bit, as it requires a good bit of awareness of Brann's positioning, but this can also mean huge damage, especially for healers and tanks who don't have that same level of burst. The Brute Force Idol makes an arrow appear over Brann's head for a few seconds. Run to him, and he'll throw you onto enemies to deal huge damage in an area. It's fun, but it's also super dangerous if you happen to bounce close to an enemy's cleave, a circle of doom, or whatever. It's also an act of terrorism if you use this in a party and not tell anyone, and people will be like, "Oh, dude, what the heck's going on?" and they get themselves killed. The Unbreakable Iron Idol is an emergency proc. Brann will deal damage and taunt nearby enemies to give you a second to breathe, or maybe pick up Brann potions if you have them spec'd for heals. It's got a 2-minute internal cooldown though, so be careful you don't rely on it too much. The Rage-Filled Idol just gets Brann killed, at least from my experience. He'll deal more damage, which will make him want to hold more aggro while losing health, and ideally you don't want him to ever be out of the fight. The Idol of the Earth Mother is a bit more reliable than the Unbreakable Iron Idol in my opinion. It gives a damage absorb based on your missing health, so if you happen to be at the brink of death, Brann will almost throw a lay on hands on you. It's a bubble though, and you still need to recover. Finally, the Porcelain Arrowhead Idol is a debuff randomly cast on enemies. It increases crit chance taken. It's a good passive for bosses when you're prioritizing your own position over Brann's, and good for slow and steady progression through delves. Personally, my go-to has been the Porcelain Arrowhead because I'm a tank, but the Idol of Final Will hitting 2 targets, that's a change I didn't even notice until writing this up, so this will have me trying out maybe Zekfir, which requires some reliable burst damage. For defensive purposes, I'm all for the Idol of the Earth Mother. It seems to proc when it really needs to save my butt. Now let's take a look at utility Curios. The Lifeless Necrotic Relic is something to just ignore entirely and hope that Blizzard changes it into something useful in the future. The Relic Blood of Zekfir is uniquely earned by encountering Zekfir during a delve and then looting the item drops after leaving. The higher the delve, the better the quality as usual. Now this is a weird one. It gives Brann a buff where he drops these kind of red looking guts on the ground, and they give stacks of this blessing that increases throughput but decreases max health. The stuff on the ground seems to persist long after spawning, and each one will refresh the debuff back to the full minute. The Curio spawns up to what seems to be 8 of these buffs at a time, but by spacing it out, you can collect more and stack this bonus even higher at the cost of max health. In practice, it's just 8 stacks, and this buff it's just okay. The Amorphous Relic is a bit RNG, but it offers one of 2 good buffs, either more health and damage or more movement speed and haste. The Relic of Sentience drops either more traps if Brann is DPSing, or more healing pots if he's healing. Both of them are potent, making this relic good for the kind of player who is used to longer engagements per pull. The Streamline Relic makes you super fast, and when entering combat, more haste for 8 seconds. It's good for running delves on alts that aren't max level yet, or when speedrunning. The Time Lost Relic basically gives Bloodlust, but you need to be standing inside a small area. It's situationally good until you need to make big movements. Finally, the Olden Seeker Relic gives additional stat buff treasures when finding materials like herbs and ore inside delves, and these persist through death. My favorite is, okay, I don't have a favorite, it's kind of situational. My go-to is the Amorphous Relic, Sentience when I know I'm going to be in a delve with long combat times, and Streamline for my non-level 80s. I hope this answers all your Brann questions, but if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to address your needs or make corrections. If this guide did help, please hit the like button, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.